Any questions?
Do it.
Reyes, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
I am really looking forward to our conversation. And I always like to start with a quick introduction for those that don't know you. Could you give us the quick version of yourself and your role at Brilla Public Schools today?
Absolutely. My name is Reyes Claudio, and I'm the Chief Operations and Community Relations Officer here at Brilla. I've been here, this is year 11 for me. So I started off the second year that our flagship campus came to be, and I grew with the schools. I always coin when we were one school, and then now we have six schools and opening up two more schools next year. And I was also the first employee to ever enroll her children in our schools. When I lived in Community School District 7, walking distance from our flagship campus, I had the opportunity to figure out what made sense for my firstborn son. And Bria was it. It was the best option in the district that I live and it still is.
I love it. So you've truly lived the experience that your students and families are living. That's super unique. Enrollment has been a national topic of interest, and it's been really just one of the key challenges the last like 12 to 18 months, I think, for charter schools, regardless of where they are in the country. And it's something I know you and I have had conversations about, something I've talked with leaders about all across the country. And we've done some episodes on enrollment. We've talked about different aspects, of everything from Google Ads to, designing an enrollment strategy. But I wanted to spend today really talking about what it means to be in the community and engaging a community in a way that can ultimately lead to a healthy pipeline of students and families. And it really ties back to your own personal experience you were just sharing. So I wanted to start by maybe seeing if you could tell us a little bit about what you think it means for a school to be part of their community.
Absolutely. I think when you think about why charters were created, they were created to be kind of like a hub in the communities that they served, to come in and be a beacon of hope, change, an opportunity, an option, not just for the children that they served, but the communities that the schools were located in, right? Not just this additional building inside of a block on a street, but like truly an institution that started within a building, but then transcended that building to the community, whether that is by forming strong partnerships and allowing community-based organizations to come in for you to learn more about them and see how you could collaborate, or to provide resources to families. I think just in the thoughts of what a charter school is, it's to bridge those gaps between our families and the communities that we serve. Because we have tons of families that, while they live very locally, they go to and from their homes to our schools and don't stop once in one resource place. And so, truly, I think that the job of schools is to do that, to bridge that gap, to bring a familiar face, and that will allow our families to be able to understand, like, what services exist in the communities that we serve. Are there services that they're eligible for and like walking past every day, and unfortunately miss the opportunity to be served in ways that they're entitled to, right? Entitlement. Just because they live in that district, they're entitled to so much that they don't even know. That would be the first thing. And then I would say, like, at Brilla, something that's a little bit different, I would say, than most schools, is that from inception, our now executive director, who was the first ops leader, our very first campus, really created a vision of our main office to really be a resource center, like a hub for the community. So any individual, any stakeholder that walked into our main office, they always had the opportunity to be served, whether that was, hey, I'm passing by, I want to learn more about your school. Great, more a potential enrollment, whether it was their grandchild, or they were their aunt or someone in the community, or sometimes we're just the main office, right? So we can make a quick copy for someone from the community, or we can fax something for someone in the community, or someone, our first flagship campus was named Bria College Prep. People thought we were a preparatory school, or they school, or
Yeah.
college readiness center. They didn't know what that meant. So they would walk in and want to know information about colleges in the area, or want to know about a high school, or want to know about ESL classes, you name it, right? Because people, a name means so much more than just the name. And instead of them coming in and saying like, nope, we're a K to 8, see you later, it was, no, we are a K to 8. Let me tell you about Brilla and let me see how I can help you. Right? Let me make that quick copy for you. Absolutely. No worries. And since you're here, let me tell you a little bit about our schools. Maybe you know someone, right? Or, we don't offer ESL classes, but let me quickly Google for you all the ESL classes in the area, right? That only took 5 minutes of my time in the main office, but it changed the trajectory of that person's life just doing that. Because sometimes if you're looking for ESL classes, then you can't Google ESL classes, right? Like,
Right.
it's so
Yeah.
basic, but like, she just like instilled that in all of us. And that has been not just a tradition at every Bria main office, but like the expectation. Anyone who comes in, like, kindness goes a long way, and serving and being in service to the community means to actually serve, not to just give lip service.
I love that. Yeah, I was going to say what you're describing is above and beyond, just a perspective on community engagement. What you're really describing is kind of a core value or underlying philosophy that it sounds like has made its home at Bria. Do you all view this, first and foremost as kind of a mission-driven imperative? Is it, we know this is so critical to our ability to enroll? Is this is our key way to build partnerships, or is it really just all the above? And this kind of philosophy drives what happens at your main office, some of those examples you gave.
Yeah, I would say the all of the above. Uh,
Okay.
for sure. I think it's a combination of doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And doing the right thing goes a really long way. And I think, Bria is known for its character work. And we instill that not just in the children that we serve, but the adults in the building. Even things like, it's very often you will find the top level leadership in our organization picking up trash from the floor, because we are not above that, because we are a member of this community. And being a member of this community means that I'm an active participant. I'm not a passive participant. I don't
Right.
walk past the garbage. That This is my home. And I pick up the garbage because I do my due diligence. I do my part. And I say that because in everything that we do, that is the mission of Bria. It is to serve and to be in service of. And I think that that reputation to serve and serve well and to care for anyone that walks into the doors of our building has really just made it very clear to members of the community that if you're looking for a school that is going to, care for you beyond the name of your child coming into the building this time to this time, what happens in the building, if you're going to care for that child holistically, and if you're going to actually want to know the parents and want to know the stories, like, I want to know what happened over the weekend. I want to know what happened from your walk in the building 3 blocks away to here. I want to know the local, the community, like what happened, the party you went to, because those experiences that you bring only light up who you are when you're here at school. You don't have to divide that. We're part of that. I just think creates a learning environment that is vibrant and authentic to the students of the Bronx that we serve at Bria. And so I would say that, like, well intentions turned into how we do things has turned into why people choose Bria and continue to choose Bria.
So I think for a lot of schools, this connection to the community that you're talking about really shifted, unfortunately, during COVID, when people were trapped in their homes and there was a really, difficult time of uncertainty. And I think a lot of education organizations kind of lost the pulse on the community, or maybe the pulse of the community changed also. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been as you all have kind of come out of those years. Did you experience something similar? What, you know, what does community engagement look like today? I mean, you talked a lot about just being face to face with families, talking with them. A lot of that got taken away for a period of time. Tell us a little bit about the before and after with COVID.
Sure. Well, I talked to you a little bit about the before, and right before COVID, we had only had our second replication school. We began our middle school. We were really thinking about expanding into a new district, Fordham, a new area of the Bronx, and we actually opened up two schools in the pandemic remotely. So
Oh
we did
wow.
all of the recruitment in person, and then got shut down and did that first lottery with two additional schools that we opened.
Oh my gosh.
So I did, we did construction, and COVID and delays and all of these fun things that we had to experience, these challenges that like now I turn around and I'm like, we can do it all
Yeah,
because
we can do anything after that. Yeah.
we did. We really had to reimagine what schools were like and believe that it was possible that we were going to go back one day because we didn't know,
Mm.
right? That we were going to go back one day, that at the drop of the hat, like in person was it for us. And how did we not only, yes, we recruited in person, but to then take all of those students that we recruited and create community virtually and get them still to be in love with school and still to figure out how culturally they were going to be acclimated to our school culture through a computer screen to eventually hopefully be in person one day, right? I think we learned that like nothing replaces in person, but the next best thing is continuing to care for the people, whether that was the daily check-in calls, like it actually mattering, like our attendance numbers mattering, checking in with families, seeing what they needed, realizing that support meant more than providing a router or the assumption that families only needed access to a device, because
Right.
our families actually faced bigger things like not being able to pay their electric bill. So when you're telling them log on a device, but they can't, like they think they're going to get evicted because of circumstances. We're talking from two different sides of our mouth, right? We're
Mm.
talking from a place of privilege, honestly. Basic necessities like electricity don't seem to be, don't, someone might think that's not a privilege, but it is. For the communities that we serve, it is. It is an assumption that I think we very quickly in the pandemic realized that in order, yes, we needed to continue to educate our children. But in order to do that, we needed to understand what were their needs and how we could best support them, which is why we create very quickly raised tons, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in funds to be able to distribute to our families meals and resources, essential resources, either because they could not access them physically in their like local stores and supermarkets, or because they could not afford them, losing their jobs at the drop of a hat, not, immigration status issues, whatever the case may be, truly helping them understand that like we were there to walk with them and to walk through this with them. And that our doors, as soon as they could be open, they would. I would say our doors never closed. We did in-person distributions. Our ops staff was there in person every day, every other day, in case someone needed something, even if that meant like come in for a couple hours in a room by yourself to charge your devices because we couldn't help you with this resource, but we can help you with this, whatever it was. And so that's why in the new communities that we like went into, they quickly realized, wow, these people care. My goodness, like they haven't even met my kid in person and they're calling me to see if I'm okay, if I need something. How can we support you to get Johnny signed up, you know, on Google Classroom today? What do we need to do?
Right.
And that quickly turned into us truly understanding the community that we serve, because we also work strategically to shop local to support our local businesses. So it was like a dual kind of thing. Like we support our families, but we're also supporting locally because businesses were also shutting down left and right, which was awesome. And so I would say like in the pandemic, when people saw dips in enrollment, we saw an increase of enrollment because families could not, but like, who is this school that is distributing funds and like distributing goods and like knows the actual needs of the community and are trying to like bridge a gap some way, somehow. We continue to get in-person meals from the DOE to be able to distribute and open them daily so that, for some students, the only meals that they get are the ones
Right.
that,
Are the ones at school. Yeah.
and so we didn't, we move away from that. And so that continued, that only strengthened our relationship in the community and our position and like what we did. And then after that, I think reacclimating our students to what it meant to be a Brilla student in person post-COVID with the mask, no mask, vax, separation, shields, etc. Like so many tension points in the city. I think we were so focused on the regulations that some of those natural, just like cultural things and kind of like kindness for kindness kind of things, that kind of went away a little bit. We did experience that after COVID, not intentionally, because we're intentionally kind. We're intentionally, we care about the community, but sometimes putting the community first, putting the students first means, did we take the extra time to think about all our staff and what this was going to mean for them and the impact that this has had in them? I think sometimes the scales were turned in different ways over the pandemic. And so we learned a lot from that. And so rebuilding post pandemic, rebuilding culture with our staff, and with our newfound families that only knew us and had access to us 24/7 in the pandemic, and saying we're in person now, that means we do have
Yeah,
office
this is
hours.
new. Yeah.
Things a little bit different, could create a little bit of a divide, because change is hard. And so it was hard to transition back in. While we were scaling, we did see a little bit of a dip, not crazy significant, but enough that we said, hey, we need to start doing things because this is going to be a long term. It's not a problem right now, but it will be a later problem. And so figuring out that later problem meant thinking outside the box, zooming out and saying, okay, so now we're able to do in-person events, but people don't want to be in person. So how do we modify that? How do we strike the balance to be able to like serve everyone, but still honor like what our mission is, and say quality culture does not mean quantity. And so like rebuilding that culture and rebuilding our position with the community and saying, who are our established partners? What does that look like? How often are people coming into our buildings? How are we using our existing events to continue to allow our families to have in-person access to us? We do a couple staple events. We do coffee and conversations every month with our principals and DOOs, where we open up the doors and have cafecito with our families and say like, hey, here's what's happening in the school day. Here's what you need to know. But then we have an amazing staff that brings in ongoing members from the community to provide resources about, legal immigration issues, how to, food security, how to apply for housing, how to apply for WIC services, whatever it may be, just to keep families informed, but through the avenue of our schools, because we know that trust, especially post-COVID, is super important. Families are like, we believe what you say to us. We don't believe what the guy next door is saying, right? And so we have that. We have parent universities where a couple of times a year, we have families come in and we prepare a whole presentation to explain to, I'm a mom, you're a parent, explain to you, what's that new math, right? To me, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
But somehow these kids are getting to 2, but we don't know how they got to 2. And
Right. Yeah.
parent,
They took a detour, but apparently it's still two. Yeah.
right, it's still 2, but the detour apparently matters more than the 2.
Yeah.
It's like you still get points if you explain a correct how, but the answer is the answer, right? I come from a time where the answer is the answer.
Yeah.
How you got there is your problem. That is not
Right.
the case anymore because the thinking is different. And so we teach our families how to get there, how to support their kids. Another thing that is like obviously a staple in every school, but something that I must mention when we talk about community partnerships, because our number one community stakeholder are our families. Mobilizing your families and using them to really be the voice and reason of your school community. We believe here at Brilla that our families are our first educators, that we put them first because we are doing this in service with them for their children. And we have obviously in elementary schools, we have family conferences. In middle schools, we have student-led conferences, and we've been able to achieve 100% participation in every family and student-led conference since the start of our first school. And when we say 100%, we actually mean we have 100%. Like every family
Yeah,
has,
that's amazing.
yeah, like we track it, it's signed, it's like a badge of honor. Every Bria principal and DOO knows, like we have a full breakdown and work plan, and we track it because it matters, right? Every parent having a voice and being a participant in their child's education, it matters. That means if your circumstances have not allowed you to participate in many events or do things in the school, at minimum, 3 times a year, we sat down with you. you are you're above average, right? That's an above average thing that we can say, that our parents are engaged. And the more our families are engaged, the more they will talk about us in the community. And they will continue to like also be sources of resource, whether because of wherever their jobs are and they're speaking about Brilla, or they're connecting us to different community-based organizations. So I think just not I think thinking outside the box of like, who is your community, and your community, one, obviously your staff, mobilizing your staff and seeing like everyone knows someone, right? Like what, one degree of separation. Who knows who that can help Brilla, put their name out there. And then same with our families, and great families know great families. So having strong referral programs, getting families to really be the ambassadors of your school, like brand and community. And then actually being in the community. What are the events happening in the community? Not because you think I'm going to go and I'm just going to table and I'm going to make sure I get all these applications, but because you actually want to know what are the needs in the community. Like what are the police most concerned about? What are the neighbors concerned about? Is there any small little thing that you can do? Buying a trash can, having your facility staff do a walk around the block to support the needles on the floor. Whatever you can do to be an active member in your community goes a really long way. And then I think like I said earlier, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do pays back 100-fold. And we've seen that time and time again, not just in our schools, but every community that we go into. Authentically being a participant in that community has come back and paid in strides.
So you talked a lot about how Brilla really built trust through the pandemic and really used that as an opportunity to serve families in new ways, new and unique ways. And coming out of that, obviously serving the community, it sounds like, has continued to be the North Star for the organization. I want to get to some practical takeaways for others who are listening to this that might be wondering how they can start a more effective community engagement initiative. Before we get to that, today we're recording this on April 11th, 2025. If someone were to ask you, Reyes, what's your community or your enrollment strategy rather, how would you describe it? Like, what would the core pillars be, and where does community engagement fit within that?
So I think at Brilla, not only do we believe families are the first educators, but we're really big on school choice. So it is not unlikely that you will be at a Brilla open house or a Brilla back to school night, and a leader or an enrollment person start with saying, there are schools everywhere. Brilla believes X, Y, and Z. If you're not a parent that wants to be actively engaged, if you don't want us to call you every day that your kid is out because we care about attendance, if you don't want to X, Y, and Z, Brilla is not the place for you. And I know that's scary.
I like it.
But we are unapologetic about where the bar is. And there is this belief that you have to lower the bar, either for our families or for the standards that we have. And we do not. You don't have to. There is a parent out there that is looking for your school, that your school is the perfect school for that parent. And so do not be afraid to be clear about what you expect from a parent, because parents are very clear about what they expect from you as a school. And I think sometimes this fear, this palpable fear of like, if I don't meet my enrollment goals, my budget is going to go out the window. I'm going to lose staff. My school's going to shut down. Those are real things that can happen. And there are things that we need to do, right? But I think that holding the bar and the standard of what you expect from families and students and the community that you serve should never be compromised. I think you can be flexible. I think we can meet halfway, but I think you should always be pushing for whatever your mission is. And your mission, at least for us, our mission is to serve an excellent education in the Bronx to the students that deserve it. Through character education, through strong academic rigor, through joy, right? That's not for everyone. Some families, they're looking for different things. And so I think really being unapologetic about who you are. And it's interesting because we're like really big in the Bronx. That's what we rep. But it's kind of like, right, the Bronx way. You got to be authentic. You got to be true. You got to have real talk with your parents from the beginning. Don't sell them a dream that isn't true. Because then you're going to have true, you might enroll them, but you're going to have true retention issues because they're saying yes to something that isn't true. I would say that when I talk about what is our enrollment strategy is being like true to all stakeholders about what's expected of them and then also following through. Because you also, we can, all right, great. You make sure that the family self-selects in if this is the place for them, but you also sold them on that dream.
Right.
So are your schools examples of that dream every day? Customer service is number one. Are you providing the service that you said you were going to provide? Are your kids happy? Are your families engaged and informed? Do they know what's expected of them? And do you continue to deliver in that excellence every day? Because if not, then you just sold them on something that you're not committing to. Does that make sense?
Totally. No, I mean, I think the intentionality around saying we might not be right for you challenges people to reflect on what do I really want, right? It's and I think for a lot of families it's probably a breath of fresh air to be like, man, these people really care. I like, am I ready for this challenge? And I think it totally makes sense. So shifting gears to how someone can, you know, imitate someone who's not in the Bronx, has a different, environment they're in, different culture, different community, but wants to imitate some of those same principles that you're talking about. Someone who might be listening to this thinking, man, we really need to up our community engagement efforts. What are some maybe high level recommendations for beginning community outreach or beginning in community engagement efforts? Do you have any sort of principles that you emphasize with your teams or that you would recommend if, a new school is starting or maybe a school that's been around for a long time but hasn't really, committed to the community? What would your recommendations be?
Absolutely. I think folks need to hire folks from the community. So you have to be very intentional about your hires. Not everyone needs to be from the exact area of the community, but you need to have enough people that actually know the community. And when I say know the community, I mean either grew up there, currently has family there, lives there, knows the owner of the bodega in the corner, has someone in their corner that they could call to like vouch for them, whatever the case may be. So I think when you are opening up a school or revitalizing a school community and engaging the community, you need to know what's happening in the community. And you need to know who are those movers and shakers. And you either hire those movers and shakers or you become really close friends to those movers and shakers, right?
Right. Yeah.
But truly, you need to have people that know and love your school, always continuing to love and know your school. Because people that know and love your school will amplify the message of your school in every space that they're in. And I think we especially post COVID, like we underestimated that mom and pop, that like one person's going to talk to the next person that talks to 10 other people. And those 10 people talk to 10 people. Right. And then by the time you know it, 100 people are talking about your school. That's still real. Right. And the more and more that we get away from that post COVID line, the more like events are happening, people are on the street, it's the word of mouth. It's like it doesn't matter how many times they see your school logo. If someone has not made a connection to them, they don't care. They don't know what it means. It's not real to them. So I would say don't underestimate the power of the people that know the community, respect the community, and make sure that like your mission is one that is something that the community needs. I think we sometimes as leaders get stuck on, but this is my mission statement and this is what it's supposed to be. And this is what well, maybe what you thought about 25 years ago needs to evolve.
Yeah.
Look
It
different.
needs updated a little bit. Yeah.
Needs updated a little bit. And so that doesn't mean change your whole mission statement. I know that there's like legal, charters don't let you do that, but how you live that mission, right? Even us, right? We've been around, we're going on 13 years. Like the way that we lived our mission in 2013 is not the same way that we live our mission in 2025. because the parents are different. I mean, even the way we communicate with our families. Back then, everything was a paper application. Now it's like they don't even want to pick up a pen and paper, right? So if you don't evolve with the times, you're going to get lost for sure.
All right. So just to play that back, know the community, hire from the community if you can, or a certain percentage. Know the movers and shakers, either hire them or become close with them. Make sure your mission is dedicated to actually serving something the community needs, and maybe consider updating that to reflect kind of the current needs of the families you're serving. I love it. Super practical advice. Okay, so let's get into a specific breakdown of, I want to ask you about, and you've alluded to a number of these throughout our conversation, but I want to ask you about a specific community engagement initiative that Brilla does. So I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about, but could you pick kind of one thing you guys do, maybe annually, or it could be throughout the year, to engage the community, and just tell us a little bit about why you do that? What are some of the activities involved, and then what's the impact? Like, what have you seen in terms of outcomes from that initiative?
Absolutely. We put together, and there's nothing more Bronx than a block party. We put together the mega block party. It's called the Brilla Schools Community Celebration now. And it is a Saturday in the year, usually in September. We have a May rain day every year where we shut down the street. We shut down the street in front of our school building. Now that we're big, we do one per school district. So we'll
Okay.
have one in the South Bronx, one a little bit more North Bronx and Fordham. Now that we're moving into Highbridge, we'll have one there. And we throw this immense block party where we have bouncy castles and we give out ice cream cones and we have the coquito icy and we have food trucks and we have resource tables and we put on performances and tons of games, and our staff is out all day. Our children are invited from our schools, but anyone from the community can attend. We have speakers, we have performers, we have a DJ, we have the radio, right? And it's this idea that we are celebrating and thanking our community for allowing us to be part of that community and showing them a glimpse of what's happening in those school buildings. And there is nothing more local, nothing more Brilla than the Brilla Schools Community Celebration. We do it every year. Everyone looks forward to it. It's this mega event. And last year we had the opportunity that we were able to, especially since the pandemic, really do it across multiple school districts. We were big enough. And it is a lot of work. It's months and months of planning and permits and, all the amazing things. But I mean, for me, a 90s kid, it just reminds me of like summers in the Bronx, right? Like they're one of a kind. We give them chalk, the kids are writing on the board, they're doing, double dutch is happening, hopscotch, all these amazing, there's the organized cha-cha slide, etc. I may or may not be on that dance floor every year, right? But it's like an opportunity for us as leaders not to take ourselves seriously. The staff brings their kids. It's an opportunity to bond with our families, and um, the cost doesn't really matter because the memories that are built there are forever with our families and the community. I mean, the community spends the whole year talking about it and looking forward to it.
I was going to say, my guess would be a lot of the local businesses and groups are excited about participating in something like that because it's so unique and because it's an opportunity to gather with the community. Have you seen kind of year over year, people being more eager to partner, having seen what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. I think like all of those same organizations that like are really excited to showcase um what they provide during the year. Like not every family has the opportunity to like take off at a certain time during coffee and conversations. So here on a Saturday when it's a block party, they all table. We have like a mobile library come and donate books. We've had the animal shelter come to have kids touch the animals. We've had NYPD officers, we've had emergency trucks, right? Like just exposure to like what is the community and how to best, have access to families. So it's kind of like the biggest win-win for everyone.
So fun. I love it. All right. So as we come to a close here, I want to ask one or two more questions. This one is maybe a little more personal to you as a leader, as you've been engaged in community engagement work, community development work, enrollment. what are maybe 1 to 2 learnings that you've had as a leader driving this work forward that you wish you could go back, 3 years, 5 years, and tell yourself that might be relevant to another leader that's listening to this?
I think the learning that I wish maybe not that I learned sooner, but that I trusted my gut and didn't compromise on is that every task, whether small or big, matters. And that this work you throw, enrollment, community outreach, organizing, right? You throw so many darts at the board and rarely meet your target, even in the best of schools. And so the target should not change, but what you cannot give up is on throwing those darts. You have to keep attempting. And then the darts that do stick, keep them there. And you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep innovating, you keep trying the next new thing, and you don't give up on your families, and you don't give up on your school mission. And eventually you will see it. You have to believe. It's like almost like self-prophecy, right? Like you have to believe that what you're doing is making a difference. You have to know it, sell it, believe it, be passionate about it, and so much that in every room you go in, you have to sparkle. The person who talks about your school has to sparkle when they talk about your school, because otherwise people are only going to feel it when they walk into your school building. But how many people do you get in the building? So you need to have people that sparkle when they talk about your school and love your school.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So for people who want to learn more about this topic, or for people who are curious about resources, do you have any recommendations or shout outs to other resources or groups or organizations that have been helpful as you all have been on this journey of driving and strong enrollment, but also really engaging the community? Anything come to mind?
Of course, so many along the way. I would say some that are a little bit more national. Definitely, I mean, we use Schoolmint as our student information system for applications, super user friendly, really changed the game for us. Before the pandemic, we were paper apps and we transitioned to digital, and it was like transformative. And just being able to like have your data at the tip, it's like, it's small, but like even for those networks that I know that's a big expense, there's some standalone schools that they're like, and I'm still going to do it in this Excel sheet. And that's how I'm going to do the lottery, right? Make the investment because it's worth it. You're missing so much if you don't. Um, Mariposa Consultants. I know you've had Vanessa on the podcast before. She's phenomenal. She was, I did the Fox Fellowship with her, and she was my coach. Got to meet her, made great partner with her through the Charter School Growth Fund, and she now works with us and helps us with some of our strategic enrollment work. And having her plus the right leadership in house has been transformative for us. We just recently started working with Underdog Strategies as just like again just more bodies on the ground, but people that but then taking those partnerships and making them the Brilla way, I would say, has been helpful. Meaning like, even though you have a strategic partner that has their way of doing things, saying like, yes, and anyone who talks about Brilla needs to be trained by Brilla staff. Not just
Right, right.
with you that you're going to go sell, because a negative interaction or interaction that doesn't sparkle is not worth it to me, right? It needs to be people that know what they're talking about. So I would say like finding good partners is good, but they're not the answer, right? You need to be able to speak your mission, train the staff, ask the right questions, have accountability measures with your strategic partners to keep the work going. Hiring a strategic partner doesn't mean it's not their responsibility. They're just a support to you. So you still need to manage the work, and you still need to care about the work.
Awesome. All right. So, Reyes, where can people connect with you or learn more about Bria? Where should we send them?
Absolutely. So brillaschools.org you'll find all the information about our schools. Or like honestly, shoot me an email, reyes.claudio@setonpartners.org. I answer emails between 24 and 48 hours. Always have, always will. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always available.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Reyes. It was really great hearing about your experiences. You're clearly so passionate about the work, and I really appreciate you sharing insights for others on how they can do this in their own communities. So thanks again for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thanks for listening to Charter School Insider. This show is brought to you by BuyQ, the group purchasing organization specifically for charter schools. Want to learn how to maximize your school's purchasing power? Join together with thousands of other charter schools by visiting buyq.org/sign-up. BuyQ's purchasing program is free and has no obligations or commitments required. If you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and subscribe on your podcast listening platform of choice. If you have a question or feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at podcast@byq.org. Thanks, and we hope you'll tune in for the next one.